What's going on, everybody? It's Bro here. Hope you're doing well. And in this video, we're going to be discussing the printf function in C++. Let's get into it. Before we begin this lesson, just so you know, this lesson is optional. We won't really be using the printf function too much, but it's something you might want to consider for your own future programs. So let's begin. All the printf function is that it acts as a control for displaying our output a certain way. For example, this might be useful for maybe some sort of cash register program, and if you add a bunch of numbers together or use a coupon, you might get a result like $100 and 25.5 cents. So when you display this number, you probably don't want 3 decimal places because, well, that doesn't really work for currency. So we can use the printf function to truncate the last decimal or only display 2 decimal places when we produce output. Otherwise, if we're working with columns of data, we can do things like line up all of our columns together and add a certain amount of spaces before our information is displayed. So this could be useful if you're displaying like tabular data or columns of data too. So we can do unique things like this involving the printf function. So let's practice by creating some variables related to cars. Well, because I like cars. So let's create a few variables. So maybe we'll make a make, that's a string, a model, an integer named year, a double value named price, and we need a char value. So perhaps maybe a variable named for sale. So if you have your own favorite car in mind, feel free to assign some of these variables with your favorite car. I will assign some of these variables with my favorite car, so come up with your own or copy me. It doesn't matter. So for the make, it's going to be Ford. The model is going to be Mustang. The year is going to be 2021. The price, oh, make sure that this is not within quotes. All right, we're good then. $9,999.000. And for sale, this is a single character. So we could put like Y for yes or N for no. It doesn't necessarily have to be those two, but I guess that would make sense. All right, so let's use the printf function to display some of this information. So to use the printf function, all you do is type in printf, then you need a set of parentheses, and let's add a semicolon to the end before I forget. Now we can add a format string within the parentheses. So perhaps I will say, your car is made by. All right, now we can insert a value or variable, and we're going to insert it wherever we place a percent sign. So this begins the format specifier, and we can add a value or variable that we want to display, but we have to separate it with a comma. Then we're going to put our value or variable here. So to begin, we're just going to display the word Ford, not the variable, just the string literal. All right, so now with this format specifier, this percent sign will begin this, and this variable or value will be inserted right where this percent sign is. And there's a certain combination of values and characters we can add after this percent sign, and each of these is going to have a particular effect on how our output is displayed. So here's a chart that I made. Let's take a look. All right, well, here's a little cheat sheet that I made. So we begin the format specifier with a percent sign, and at the end, we need to list the data type of what value or variable that we want to display. So there's going to be a certain character we're going to add here to display certain information. For example, if we want to display a string, we're going to put S here. And if we're going to display a character, this would be C. And there's a few others, and we'll cover those in just a moment. So there's other optional fields that we can add that will edit the width, the precision, the length, and there's certain flags too, and we'll cover those in just a moment. So to begin, let's cover just the different format specifiers we can use for data types. And then once we get the hang of that, we'll cover flags, width, precision, and length. Let's head back to our program. So if we want to display a string literal where this format specifier is, after the percent sign, we just type in the letter S to display a string. Let's see what this looks like when we run it. Okay, your car is made by Ford. Let's try another example. So what I'm going to do is just cout endl to move down to the next line. You could put \n for a new line, but I don't want things to get too complicated in this area. So I'm just going to add a new line after our printf function. So what would happen if we did the same exact thing, but instead of a string literal, we used a string variable? So this is what the result is going to be. And I'm just going to copy and paste this, but we're going to change this string literal to a variable. So we can use the variable make. And pay attention to see what happens here. All right, so our car is made by Ford, and this time we used a string variable, and we actually got an unexpected result. And let's run this one more time, and this should actually change again. Here's the problem with string variables and the printf function. So the printf function was designed to work with the C language, but it doesn't have the built-in data type of string. And if you were to use this, you would get an unexpected result. So one trick that I found is that there's a way around this if you want to display a string variable in your printf function in place of a string literal. This is what you can do. After the string variable, just type in .c underscore, then use the str function. So you need a set of parentheses here. So what this does is that it returns a pointer to an array that contains a null terminated sequence of characters representing the current value of the string object. So basically what that means is that this function will return whatever value is at this variable. So these should work the same now if we were to run this. So your car is made by Ford, your car is made by Ford. So just keep that in mind. If you're using the printf function to display a string variable, you'll want to use this function after the variable name. Otherwise, if you're using a string literal, you could just type that here. Another trick is that with the printf format string, you can add multiple format specifiers if you want to include multiple values or variables. So let's display the make and the model in one single string. So printf, your car is maybe a colon. All right, so we want to display the make and the model, but let's display the string literals first, and then in the next example, we'll do the variables. So we want to display the make, so %s because it's a string. Now we also want to display the model, so we can add another format specifier here, and we'll display another string, so %s. Now after the format string, we're going to add two values. So the first one, it needs to be separated with a comma. We're just going to type in a string literal, Ford. Now we need another string to add. So we're going to add another comma and then type in our model, which is Mustang. And then let's add a semicolon at the end. Okay, so then this will display two strings. So we can add multiple format specifiers to a single formatted string. So your car is a Ford Mustang. So with these format specifiers, it's as if we're inserting this value or variable wherever this format specifier is located, and it's in order. So the first format specifier is going to be assigned with the first value, and the second one is going to be assigned with the second value, so on and so forth in that pattern. So if we had three format specifiers, we would need a third value or variable here. So let's try the same thing, but we're going to assign the string variables in place of these. So I'm just going to move down to the next line by saying cout endl, and let's try the same thing, but we're going to use the variables this time. So printf, your car is a colon space. We need the first format specifier, so %s, and the second, so %s again. So we want the make first, so make dot c underscore str, then a set of parentheses. Now we want the model. So model dot C underscore str, then a set of parentheses. And I am missing a semicolon at the end. All right, let's run this to see if it works. Your car is a Ford Mustang. Your car is a Ford Mustang. All right, so I think we got string format specifiers down then. And before we move on to the next example, I'm just going to move down to the next line. And I think I'm going to make this a little more organized. So I'm just going to line these up. Okay, that should be good. Let's display the year, which is an integer variable. So printf, then we need a format string. The year is, so if we want to include a integer variable, we need to use the %sign format specifier. Then we're going to put the letter D here. And then we'll need to insert a comma, then the value or variable. So if you're inserting an integer variable, a double variable, or a character variable, basically anything but a string, you actually don't need to use this function, because with the C programming language, these string variables really aren't compatible with the printf function. But if you're using a primitive data type like a integer, a floating point number, or a char value, you don't need to use this function. So we could just use this variable and this would work just fine then. So the year is %sign decimal. The year is 2021. So I'm going to move down to the next line just by typing cout endl. Let's display the price. So printf, the price is, if we want to display a double or floating point number, we're going to put %sign f for floating point number, comma, then our price variable, cout endl. Not necessary, but I want to move down to the next line after this. There. All right, so if we want to display a double variable or a floating point number, we just use %sign f for floating point number. So the price is $9,999.00000000. So we're actually going to be formatting this fairly soon. Now, if we want to include a char value, it's going to be a similar process. So printf, then a formatted string. Is it for sale? %sign C to display a char value, then a comma, then the variable will go here. So for underscore sale, cout endl. Okay, is it for sale? Yes. So remember that if you're using a primitive data type or variable when using the printf function, you don't need to use this C_str function. But if you're using a string variable here for your printf function, then you would need to use this to return whatever value is located at this variable. Well, I think we have the different data types down with using the printf function. Let's cover a few of the flags, the width fields, and the precision fields that we can use to format our output. For the next example, let's try and display the price, but we're going to limit the amount of decimal places that are displayed because that would accurately reflect a price instead of 3 decimal portions. So if we want to display a floating point number or a double number of some sort, we'll use the %f format specifier. So the price is, so normally we would type in %f, then a comma, then our price. However, if we want to limit the amount of decimal places that are displayed, we're going to type this after the %sign, but before the f, .2 to limit this to 2 decimal places. So let's see what this looks like right now. Yeah, the price is $9,999.00, so 0 cents. But you know what? I think I want a $sign, so I'm going to add that before the format specifier. So let's try that now. Yep, $9,999.00. All right, now we can have our output be preceded with blank spaces, kind of like we're hitting tab. So what we're going to type is printf, and maybe I'll just add a note this time. This precedes with blank spaces. And maybe we'll display a string, so %s. And let's add a string literal, like whatever the make of the car was, and that was Ford. Then colon, cout, endl. All right, so we can specify or allocate a certain amount of space to actually display whatever value is here. Let's say that we want to give our string, our formatted string, 10 spaces to work with and actually display this information where our format specifier is. So after the %sign, but before the data type, we're going to type in however much space we want to give this value to display. So we could say maybe 10. We can pick a different amount too. So what happens is that if we were to run this, we would actually have all of this blank space before displaying our value. But let's count how many spaces are here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we actually don't apparently have 10. That's because we're actually including the space that the value takes up too. So altogether, we would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you're basically giving or assigning room to actually display your value. So this would be really useful if you're displaying like a column of information and you want things to be lined up naturally. So that would be a good use to precede some information with some blank spaces. And you can have your value be preceded with zeros. So what I'm going to do is just copy this, and we're going to make one change. So after the %sign in the format specifier, but before the amount of space we want to have this precede with, we're just going to put 0. And I'm just going to change this string here. This precedes with zeros. All right. Yep, here's all of the zeros. And we should still have 10 spaces of room assigned to displaying this value. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think lastly for this video, I'm just going to show you guys one flag that you can use to left justify any value within any space allocated using the printf function. So what I'm going to do is just copy this line that says this proceeds with blank spaces, and we're just going to make one minor change. So if we want to left justify this value, because normally it is right justified, so any extra space is assigned before the actual value is displayed. If we want to left justify it, we're just going to add a minus sign, so % minus the amount of room that we want to give this value to display, and then the data type of the value. So this, we should probably change this message. Maybe we'll just type in left justify. All right, so let's see what this looks like right now. So it says left justify, then the make of our car. But we have all of this blank space after, but we can't really see it right now. So let's add another format specifier to display after this. I'm just going to copy this. So we're just going to add % minus 10s, and then we'll add a make or a model for the car. So we'll just add Mustang. So let's try this again. So it should be a parrot now. Yeah, that's fairly clear. So now we have 10 spaces to work with. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And the value is now left justified within the space that we gave to display our value. And the same thing is going to be with the other string that we assigned here as well, but it's not as apparent here. But just pretend that all this room is here. Well, that's the basics of the printf function. I do apologize for this long video. This was a fairly difficult topic to cover, but if you would like to learn more, I'll include a link in the description for the C++ website where you can learn more information about this. There's still more flags and different values you can add to your format specifier for different effects, but these are just a few of the basics. And I'll include all of this code in the comments down below and pin it to the top if you would like a copy for yourself. But yeah, those are the basics of the printf function in C++. Hey you, if you enjoyed this lesson, then you can help me help you in 3 easy steps by smashing that like button, drop a comment down below, and subscribe if you'd like to become a fellow bro.